Let me introduce you now to Donna Orender. Donna, will you come up here? She is, please.
She's right here.
You can speak over there if you want to. She is, as so many of you know, she is, oh, we have a fancy song for her. She is the former president of the WNBA. She worked at PGA Tour for 17 years before she got that job. She is somebody who is a model of positivity and determination. Somebody who, every time I've seen her, has a smile on her face, even on those moments when you're super stressed and you're putting on a huge event. She's got a smile on her face. And somebody who very clearly knows what she wants and knows how to get it. And I honor that and appreciate it. And I'm so delighted to have her as a speaker tonight. Donna, thank you.
My pleasure, Callie. Thank you. Just trying to think. See, you look better both. You look good both ways. Hi, everybody. How are you this evening? Letty just offered a car up every Wednesday night. How could we not be fantastic? And let me just say this, having been in the business for such a long time, first of all, thank you. Because what you said is so incredibly important. The first thing was you expressed this incredible excitement about your ability to get behind, with your product and your money, your resources, behind women. Now, the fact that women actually influence over 60%, probably more, the purchase of all cars, they buy at least 55% of them. Why we consider you an innovator in this space, I do not know. But we are so grateful for it. And you know what we should do? We should reward her. Because the places we want to go, and the people we want to meet, and the things we want to see are all afforded by the people who can support us. And if we support them back, the power that we have, yet unrealized, can truly happen when we support each other. So Letty, I just want to let you know, I thought that was fantastic. So thank you so much. There are several speakers that were here before last night, and before that spoke, I guess, last year. And yes, Charlene, I thank you for making sure that I get here. You know, it's so great to have great friends because they always make sure you say yes. And isn't that the power of girlfriends? Right? You make sure you say yes. And Lisa, we say yes. And that's one of my philosophies of life. You say yes before you say no, and actually, when it comes time to say no, you forget those two letters, N and O, because you're always trying to figure out what the possibilities are. And I wanted to say hello to you, Snowden, as well. Nice to see you. She's writing her 7th book. She just told me it's on productivity. I said, you know, I'd be happy to be a case study in unproductivity. After all, if you're going to write good case, you know, if you're going to write about productivity, you have to really know people who are just not productive, and that would be, certainly would be me. Kelly invited me, listen, this is fantastic. This building is beautiful. Her mother really, both of them have done an amazing job to bring people together. And I said, Kelly, what would you like me to speak about? And she says, oh, you know, just inspire everybody, make them feel great, teach them things that they never heard of or knew before, and then make sure they walk out on a cloud of 10 feet of air. And I said, you know, Kelly, I'd love to do that, but I don't usually do it on Wednesday nights. Thursday's my night for doing that. Seriously, she said, just tell you a little bit about yourself, and I'm happy to share a couple of stories, and then I'm happy to take some questions, and hopefully somebody else will give you the answers, if that's okay. I love getting together with women. I truly do. I think there's always a power, a connectivity, an energy that really lifts us. And I think, as Kelly said, we don't get to do it too often. But when we do, we always take advantage of it, don't we? I was a kid who loved to play sports. And how many athletes do we have in this room? You don't have to be professional. You just have to, hands go up, go down. So when I was in high school, when I played, I know, by the way, in case you can't tell, I just had that cool freezing sculpting thing do. 30 years younger, what do you think? Right? I know they're going to pick my card out of that bowl. I actually played 6 sports in high school, and I loved them all. But eventually, the one that spoke to me the most, I know you're going to think it's basketball. Eventually it did. But the first one that spoke to me was tennis. I played volleyball players. field hockey, softball. I even put on a leotard and vaulted. To this day, I can never understand how I would really run around in public in a leotard. Especially, that was pre-cool sculpting. But the one thing I wanted to do is I wanted to play tennis, and I happened to be not bad at it. I happened to be pretty good. And at the time when I was young, even John McEnroe's coach, who's a really famous coach, said, Harry's name was Harry Hoppman, and he said, if you come to our academy, we'll train you. I don't know if I exactly wanted that, but I knew that I wanted to do one thing. I wanted to play tennis on my high school tennis team. But I couldn't do that. Anybody have any idea why? They were all boys. There was no girls' tennis team. We think of Title IX today. We think of all the privileges and the opportunities. How many people here have daughters that now get to compete in sports? Right? It's beautiful to see the opportunities they have, and yet, girls, we are not there yet. I still feel like in some ways we're under siege. But at the time, I had this question, what was I going to do? I was 14 years old. The coach of the tennis team was this guy about this tall. His name was Coach Sneezak. I remember him. I can see him clearly. He was a former Marine. He had silver hair, cut slick, the whole thing, flat top. I said, okay, I'm going to ask Coach Sneezak if I can play on the boys' tennis team. I don't know where I got that gumption, but I guess it was there early. And so I went up, I said, Coach, listen, I want to play tennis on the team, on the boys' tennis team. And he looked at me, and God bless him. God bless leadership who understands opportunity. Because what he taught me to this day is all we ever ask for is opportunity. Give me the chance, and I'll make my own way. But if we don't have the chance, right, that's the issue. So Coach Nisek said, okay, here's the deal, Donna. You can try out for the boys' tennis team. I want you to be on the court on Tuesday at 4 o'clock. You are going to play Marty Porish for the last spot on the team. What do you think? I said, Coach, I'll be there. He said, okay. I had a terrible dilemma. I really liked Marty Porish. True story. Think about it as women. To this day, right? You just said it's true. What's your name? Jennifer, I'm calling you out. Jennifer said it's true. To this day, why do women have a dilemma? I have to choose to excel or I have to choose the man. Now, not always. I happen to be lucky. I get to do both. But at that time, and even 2 years ago, I don't know how many of you recall the article in the New York Times. Maybe it was 3 years. It was an expose on the gender issues at Harvard Business School. And there were case studies of women there who actually were thinking about their MBA and their MRS degrees. And they were different subjects, but they felt pressure that they couldn't pursue them both. In this case, at 14, I made the wise decision. I decided to play Marty to win. So on Tuesday at 4 o'clock, I showed up. There was Marty. And after about an hour and a half or whatever it took, the new member of the Elmont High School boys tennis team also happened to be the first girl in the state of New York to ever play on a boys sports team. And yeah, I'm really proud, but when I think back on it now, and you know what, I have to tell you, when you think on your lives, like Charlene told me that she talked about life. I actually think, you know what, I think you should do Charlene again. Because what she just told me about what she said, I wanted to hear it. I mean, it sounded profound and interesting, and I would learn a lot. Or we could do it at breakfast, whichever one you want. But the questions that come up are what? 1, do I play on the boys' tennis team? 2, do I play on the girls' tennis team? And if there's not, do I create one? And 3, is there something new? Is there a new paradigm that I go out and try to create? And I have to just say, to this day in my life, I still frame the world that way. Because really, what is it? Well, the first thing is you simply play the game. And let's not kid ourselves. Life is a game. It's filled with written rules that we can visibly see. It's filled with unwritten rules that really we can't see, but we know embrace us and sometimes stab us, right? Or do we change the game? How many of you here would consider yourselves game changers? I bet you more of you are game changers than you're willing to admit, which belies the strength in this room. And the third option is, do you just opt out? Do you just say, hey, I'm not going to do this? Which is it for you? Here's the questions. I wrote this down because actually one day, I don't know about you, but I actually try to think, isn't it hard? Let's see, what should I do? Should I look at the Instagram account? Should I check on my Facebook, right? Maybe I should send out a Twitter because maybe people haven't heard from me in the last. Maybe I should Periscope my morning routine in the bathroom. Or maybe I should just think, right? Do I lean in or do I opt out? Is there a third metric? Is there a new rules for an old game? My friend Ita is here. Ita is one of the most extraordinary women I have ever met. She actually started as my mentee in an organization called Women in America in New York City, which started 9 years ago with a group of women who all met at the Fortune Most Powerful Women's Conference. So we all got together and had dinner. Now, what happens when a group of women get together and have dinner? They have fun, they drink, they talk, and eventually they say, we have to do something. And I'm like, really? Do we have to do one more thing? Let's start a mentoring group. Okay, let's start a mentoring group. And actually, the gift of mentoring is one of the greatest gifts in the world. Because while as much as you give, truly you do receive. And on the way here, Ita and I were talking about the rules of the game in our own way, right? And she talked to me about the energy she now feels with women in terms of like there's new things going on, especially in the world of entrepreneurship, which she definitely is occupying a big and learned space. Every step that I've ever taken and continue to take, I think about that. Now, in some ways, I have to tell you, every day, Shar, I think I'm playing on the boys' tennis team. And you know, I don't say that with a lot of begrudgment, although there are days. There's a great thing, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about this, but tomorrow, we're preparing to present a huge research study on the leadership presence of women in the city of Jacksonville. Why are we doing it? Because if we don't know where we stand, if we don't know where our presence is, if we don't understand our pipeline, if we can't create the scorecard, how do we create change? We can't. And I'm going to tell a story about Wikipedia. Could I tell you a little bit about Wikipedia? Why not? How many of you use Wikipedia? How many of you don't use Wikipedia? Is it a political or social thing? You just don't use it. It's the 7th largest website in the world, and it is the largest purveyor of knowledge on the planet. Google accesses Wikipedia all the time, so you never even see its pervasiveness, its ubiquity in terms of giving you information. So let's talk about the quality of information. What percentage of Wikipedia information is created by men versus women? Would we assume that the largest purveyor of knowledge that we all quote and cite in all of our research papers, which we use to write new knowledge bases, would we assume it's 50-50? Ladies, there are wrong answers on this question, but it's okay. Just guess. Huh? What do you think? Snowden says 70-30. I wish it was 70-30. It's actually 87-90 to 10%. 10% of content on Wikipedia, right, which is the fuel of our knowledge base in this country, even though there are professors now, any professors in the room, that says they won't allow it, comes from men. What does that mean? What can't we see in that? What we can't see are the decisions that are made of what information to include or not. What it means in a community that was built actually on being a nice, equitable place. Bye, honey. Everyone say goodnight to Natalia. Is actually dominated by who came first and who speaks the loudest. It actually sounds just like the world of business. Who got there first and who speaks the loudest. And because Wikipedia is not technically friendly to many women, because it really is a difficult interface to be able to add to, the kind of articles we may want to read, we're not going to find. Or, how about this? A Wikipedia contributor in Chicago does a study and cites 4,400 female scientists who pass all the tests of notability to be included and get a Wikipedia page. How many of those scientists does she find that are included in Wikipedia? 0. 0. How can we be what we can't see? Right? We can't. And so we have to be able to look outside of ourselves, and we have to be able to ask the questions, and we have to be able to take those steps. Do I play on the boys' tennis team? When it comes to Wikipedia, in a sense, I think I do. Because unless I do, I won't be able to create a new game. If I opt out, then we're left with what is. And hence, the issues of how we want to see our lives, the role we want to play, right? The greatness we want to achieve. That's all around us. I played tennis, but ultimately my love, as many of you may know, was basketball. I didn't play on the boys' basketball team, but I played with the boys in the park all the time. And truthfully, if I still get the chance, I put a bag over my head. But now that I have that cool sculpting, I don't have to do it. And I'll even play with my 18-year-old sons in the gym. It's a game that's like poetry to me. It's music. It's dance. It just makes me feel free. It makes me feel empowered. It makes me feel strong. And that path of playing basketball actually led me to play for one of the best teams in the nation. It led me to play on the first women's game ever at Madison Square Garden. And I can tell you, if you want to talk about poetry, when Ribault High School just recently won the national championship for girls' high school, they won it at Madison Square Garden. And I'm like, isn't that a beautiful, right, virtuous circle of life? And so to be invited to be part of a ceremony that honored them, and the girls looked at me like I didn't have cool sculpting on my face. Who are you? What have you done? It was okay because my heart felt blessed. After playing basketball, I ended up being drafted in the first women's professional basketball league. It was a joy beyond joy to be able to be paid to do something you absolutely love. By the way, if there's one recommendation that I can honestly make to each one of you, that should be our life's goal, right? We should be able to really do what we love and love what we do. And let me just tell you, it's never always going to be perfect, but there's always something that you can find. There's always a day that you can find, even when things are going bad, that you can find something that you can find a blessing in. You know, I'll tell you what, I never shy away from doing the nitty-gritty. I don't mind getting my hands dirty. People will come and say, oh, I want to work with you. And I'm like, that's great. What do you think that looks like? We stuff envelopes, right? We actually sort things. You know, there are days I throw out the garbage. Really? You throw out the garbage? I'm like, yeah, isn't that great? All of this is part of getting to where we want to go. You're laughing. You totally get it, right? You totally get it. So after playing professional basketball, I make my way into the golf world. For those of you here from the golf world, spent 17 years at the PGA Tour. Yes, I was the only senior executive female there forever. And the interesting thing was I never looked at myself as the woman. I always looked at myself as one of the boys. And I ended up getting married to a lovely man from Florida. His mother said to him, oh my God, honey, you're going to marry her? She's a Yankee. We still fight over these things. But that said, he's the love of my life. And he reminded me one day, he said, Donna, you'll never be one of the boys. Don't ever kid yourself. I could talk the language. I certainly could walk it. I could play it. But the truth of the matter was, it wasn't until really more recently in my career and my life where I truly had an appreciation of the skills, the assets, the attributes, the different look on life that a woman brings to the table had value. And we all have value. And all of that really came to the fore when I became the head of the WNBA. Because it was there that I really realized I had missed the hood. And that's the hood that's in this room, the sisterhood, right? That the power and value in women. And it's not always pretty. Kelly, you talked about that. It's not here. But gosh, women can be the hardest on other women. There are times when I feel like I have to fight so much harder to move something forward on behalf of women through women. I'm a little astounded by it at times, but then when you take a step back, you understand it. Because like I know Father Tom's in the back of this room right now, and he's a huge basketball fan. I wouldn't have to convince him to buy tickets for the WNBA. I'd say, Father Tom, the Liberty are playing tonight. What do you think? And he goes, give me 10. True? True. You'd probably say 20. 20. It's okay. They play in New York, so tonight you're not on the hook, Father Tom. I have to say, representing the elite athletes of the WNBA actually gave me a bird's eye view of being on the cutting edge of culture and commerce. Because it's where I learned about how men felt about women. I learned about how women felt about women. And I think that was the most surprising. And I learned about how we feel about ourselves. It was one of the greatest educations you could ever have. It was exciting, it was dynamic, and from a business perspective, it tested every skill that I ever had. But I'm happy to say that when it was time for me to leave, I truly left the league better than when I found it, and I'm so proud, could not be prouder, that this season, the WNBA celebrates its 20th season. At a time when everyone said, they'll never make it. And it's funny, probably the day before the season, I sent a note to the commissioner, Adam Silver, who was my colleague, actually probably my mentor. He was the one who recruited me for the job, and I sent him a note and said, Adam, could you believe it? They said it would never last. And we both had a good laugh. And it certainly could be stronger, but the fact is, they're still there. It was time for me to come home. For those of you who don't know, I have twin boys. I spent 6 years commuting to New York City. My boys lived in New York for 2 years. My husband commuted. So for those of you who always want to ask about the balance of life, how do you do it? You just keep dancing and talking to yourself. Yes, you look like a crazy person, but you know what? The woman sitting at the next desk is also crazy. And you just figure it out. And when it was time to come home, what I learned about women, I knew that that was a passion that I wasn't going to leave anywhere else. I knew it was going to come with me. And when I came back home, I recognized the fact that we live in the South. Okay, you're going to say, duh, did you not figure that out before? I realized that wherever I went in America, there were always fantastic, fabulous women who had ideas, who had energy, who wanted to be great. But on the other hand, sometimes lacked confidence, perhaps lacked direction, perhaps didn't get the resources and support around them, whether it was in their company, whether it was in their community, whether it just came from inside you. So I wanted to be a part of helping to inculcate that in women in this area. And that was the beginning of Generation W 6 years ago. And said, you know what? What we want to do is we want to bring women together. And here's our fundamental principles. 1, magic happens when people get together, especially women. We feel it tonight. Thank you again, Kelly. 2, we all need each other. And it doesn't matter if you're the president of the bank, if you are a home caregiver, if you're a volunteer, if you're a teacher, if you're a mom, if you're a professor. Every single person brings their own gifts to the table, and if you truly, truly want to create change, you do it by linking hands with each other. Our first Generation W, a lot of the women from the Fortune Most Powerful Women came down. It was fantastic. They said to me, if you do this, we'll be there. And they were. And as I was planning, there was a woman who was a senior vice president of a bank, and she said to me, well, what happens if I sit next to a hairdresser? With all due respect, my hairdresser can come with me anywhere. I said, either she'll like it or she'll leave. And if she doesn't like it, she probably should leave. We had 50 people come our first year. We had 700 women show up. They had no idea what what they were going to see. But thanks to my colleagues, and you talk about you can't make old new friends, but Dana is here, and Char's here, and Lisa's here. We've all been together, well, Dana a little bit less for what, 25 years? We blink at each other and we know what we're thinking. And so we were able to launch something from scratch that looked like it'd been here forever. And what's happened is what we believe is when you dig deep in a community, that you really can make change. That when you really talk to each other and you're not afraid, don't be afraid to really talk about the things that matter. We talk about race, we talk about color, we talk about economic disparity. I recently gave a talk at an event for the League of Black Women. And I called up the woman, I said, what would you like me to talk about? And she said, well, maybe you should talk about being a white woman of privilege. And I'm like, okay. I don't see myself as a white woman of privilege, but what you're telling me is I am seen as a white woman of privilege. So I should think about that. And when I got that night, there were 150 beautiful women in the room. There were 2 white women. And when I got up to give my remarks, somewhere in the middle, I said, Shirley said I should talk about being a white woman of privilege. There wasn't silence in the room, like there is now. There was like, yeah, I can feel everyone saying, yeah, thank you. Call it out. Let's talk about it. And then you know what I said? I'll tell you what I said. I said I never saw myself as a white woman of privilege. What I saw myself as a regular, hardworking, hardscrabble kid who worked her ass off for everything she could get and everything she could accomplish. In the process, my privilege is I love people. But I never really thought about the access that I would have that was different because of the color of my skin versus somebody else's. Because that's what she got me to think about. And that started an incredibly authentic and real conversation. And when we can connect on the authentic and real level, when we talk about heart, right? I see the colors red, red hot. And I see the colors blue, cool blue. And when you meet people, do you not feel your heart? So when we talk about color, I love to talk about, can you see the color of my heart? Because I can certainly feel the color of yours. And so that's the work we do. We just had our 5th anniversary of Generation W. We have over 1,300 people that come from all over the country. We have about 50 speakers. Like Kelly, we love bringing people together, and we'll continue to do that. And it definitely is a passionate pursuit of purpose that makes me feel like, hey, I can contribute to this world. Because at the end of the day, as women, what do we really want to do? What do you really want to do? Make a difference, right? Everybody wants to feel like they can make a difference. So as you leave here tonight, recognize your own opportunities. Grasp and embrace your own gifts. And in the process, reach for a little more for somebody else. And when you go to bed at night, you will know that you have made somebody else's life better. And that makes life so worth living. Thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you.